right, everybody. Here we are. It's I'm going to check in with Sean because the time just says a blur, one reading to the next. It is indeed our third season, second reading of the Splice, and I'm really looking forward to this reading. I just want to say two words. There's nothing really better for me than to make friends and to be associated with not only people who write really good poetry, really concise, but also that they're activists within their community. And these two readers that we have tonight are exactly that. They're great artists and great poetry community organizers. Sean, and he's going to introduce Cameron Lovejoy.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Cameron Lovejoy is a self-taught poet, writer, and fine printer based in New Orleans. You all probably know him pretty well in here. He co-edits Tilted House, a small press focused on intimately made, hand-bound books, and has hosted the Rubber Flower reading series since 2017. The next one is this Monday, 7 p.m. at the Mudlark Community Theater. If you're here, I hope you'll also be there. His work has appeared in Denver Quarterly, Columbia Review, Diagram, Bayou, and more. When we recede into the darkness of these poems tonight, we bob along with the untethered, soft-focused mind in an experiment that releases the gravity that grounds us in traditional imagery and narrative. What Tsukofsky might call thought's torsion. However, the torsion in these poems is not an obsequious objectivity. There's a reach for radical subjectivity here, a project that hopes to challenge the dominant social formation, whether it be how we perceive poetry or what we think poetry should be or even is. There's the famous Kurosawa quote, "To be an artist means never to avert one's eyes." Cameron's poems have freshly torqued this adage by asking, what if I'm not wearing my glasses? Must I demand sense of the sensory? Some of the poems tonight are experiments in uncertainty and ambiguity. The filmmaker Andrei Tarkovsky notes that one cannot speak of the infinite world by applying tools that are definite and finite. The tools in these poems are various. We'll have film directions, fragmentations, metapoetics, sonic chicanery, disjunctive syllogisms, etc. Cameron uses these tools for a DIY spaceship built to explore an apperception poetics. Take your protein pills, put your helmet on. Please welcome Cameron Lovejoy.
Hey everybody. Thank you, Sean.
You're welcome.
And Splice and Saturn Bar. That was beautiful, Sean. Thank you. I'm going to be reading from a project entitled Dark Room, which are poems of the interior, of consciousness, the subconscious, and mainly our fear of the dark. As an act of cultivating and maintaining and maybe rediscovering a sense of moral interiority and spirituality. And being able to adequately respond to the exterior world and all its horrors and spiritual corruption. So we're gonna do something a little different, and we're gonna turn the lights off. So I invite you, if you're comfortable, to just kind of look into the dark places, the shadows, and if you are comfortable, maybe close your eyes, just to see what comes up. And maybe tune into your breathing. But first, 3 epigraphs. Its florid patterns recede into the darkness, conjuring in their stead an inexpressible aura of depth and mystery, of overtones but partly suggested. That's Junichiro Tanizaki from his essay in Praise of Shadows. In order to remain reasonable and moral, we must recognize the threat of chaos. And that's J.F. Martel. And the political institutions of any nation are always menaced and are ultimately controlled by the spiritual state of that nation. And that's James Baldwin. This is Darkroom. Empty through a house is empty. Dark, surrounding ligaments and susurrus of architecture. Verticality in the attic is lopsided on a spine, grown to host a museum of lost things. An eye glimpses something in the absence, and through all substance come the colors of a ghost. Rhizomatic cinema. A projector whispers from the mouthy booth a kind of book, begs a bulb of light to keep the darkness heavy. A throng of rats in heather and the darkness of the theater of warping. Against the tower it has built inside the walls of velvet draping down inside itself. A glitch. It flickers apparitions from the celluloid that loiters on the cusp, hoisting up a thing just to throw it down again. A brick descending through the dust to thud the grass to build a grave. A grave, the negative of an edifice, the angle of a light. Interiority through the haptic, against the ocular, against the sun. Shadow coddles the ghost as a gift. Inside is just shiplap, just one side of a whirlpool sunk. Crayons against labels eating adhesive is a horse. A sieve goes on living. A living room goes on sale. A schooner has no rooms. The outside has no sides. The mind's scaffolding is also known, to which there has been no proper introduction. This thing, held so firmly in its case, folds itself like a playbill at a horrible opening. The demolition of things, like buildings. Implosion is an industry. Aspect ratio. The window, red, his window reading blood. A brooding wind purring something in a swarm of silk. Out there is a breathing task, to squint the throat for something calm. Inhales darkness through a frosty glass. Spirits calling on the crimson tongue, a lasting question. The dew on the window drips. Exhausting dusk. In velvet red. The ringing in the head that aches and tells this glass to tremble, tells this raspy angle what it means to trust a house. Cut to the anarchy of a dark hallway. What holds no holiday for the imagination, its mechanisms. What pulses in the substance, what colors, what deckled edges beveled towards evil. Alive in the lurking, in the aura of departure, what curdles. Oh, what cinema has done to the unlit. What ghost purring, disturbed in the cloth. Light-sensitive material. Skinless plums in a red lake, brimming a drip to the table. They could be eyes, and to the tooth a gravel pit. Understanding darkness drops a blanket on the brain. A fighting chance to figure out the swallow of a plum. Where the pith goes, how red the water, the architectonics of a lake, liquid dripping from a table, once a tree. Engineering the imaginal. An assemblage in a system to pointing, but in resembling a wiry hair out of focus at the eye is a history, a coiling of apparitions in a mood. Curtains billow, maybe bellow, and below the surface is not ordinary terror. A hollow goes, shadows too calm to cast back at the lantern, a monster, but is. Foreshadowing. Formless in the becoming, a thing on the wall of some forgotten theater. What rots propagates from its negative. Under the floorboards could be anything, but on them a riot. A nail rises from its hole, and another. Intermission. Horror driven halfway through the heart cannot be the rub of unreason, but the remnants of what it is to be reasonable. The subtle pattern of some thing having dripped down the cupboard. Animal heads with the eyes left in. In the mirror, a separate throat, breathing no air. A nail rises and another. Laundry day. This is no carapace. The paranormal clucks at logic's deep sweat. Drippings from the skull into waste and green crayons. Infrared lozenges. A knuckle of meat. The cosmicity of a shadow quivers up the femur from the fetlock, and unfettered, the specter lows and lows. The results of conditioning are in, outlasting a train. The psychology of garments hanging on a line. Mai, which is a kind of martial art. Mai. Against this standing on, this being on. Against this on that, back, drop, ground, figure. Against something lesser in substance, or of something murky on something pale, blue on something green. The sunset on what says the horizon here? Somewhere beyond the brush. A sparrow gliding on the sky is and what a beautiful it is. The interval there in combat, the distance of engagement, maintain space either to strike first across time and angle or be struck. The mental interval before ing the opponent. A lapse in awareness is grounds for attack, backed by and up and into a corner, one against another, a figure against figuring out what mist is by simply not painting it. A butterfly enters a butcher shop where the poem is taken and the blade. An ashen flash to a solemn thing. Again the dust slips the sharpness to air, goes sputtering. Against death in a butcher shop, against heat in a cake. Letterboxing. Contained in airy chambers, a rapping and its echo. The electric fuse of one fussy brain ambles out its myths. Something brushes up against what wheezes in the teeth. wind from under an umber rug, an egg whose air transmits a gully. Through a transom at the end of a passage, shadows throw elbows with the shelves. Glass breaking the hearts of ghosts. Through a series of by-the-ways, original memory is lost. Splicing indicates a return to art, jump cuts. From the outlines of holes on both fringes crawl colonies of spiders collapsing cities. Manholes steaming, seething ink. The dimensioning mentioned in the construction of a brain cannot reach the legend's distant glimmer. A forested hut, lamplit, the hermit's plastic associate. Guttural pastoral. A cloud could call out. Could a cloud, now loudening the call, turn dark? A call for rain does all but dissolve a plowed field, a loud seed. The corner of a house is, of course, its germ. Could clouds inside warm what's frightened in the hearth? Hard thunder raising hairs on the chimney? Could a cloud roll over woven cauldrons? Devour a court of wood, a court of law? This is my last poem. Thank you all for listening. In meditation, the breadth of holes in bread. A need, a graph, an L, the space or dimension missing in the L is only 2. Suppose typography can change this, but this L, a wingless dove, is less a flightless thing, more a lessened, less is more lesson, like the shallow breathers still sustained, just not as needy. Not to need as in the batter glue, but need as in the legs of time. The L for lung or love, whatever is between the two.
Oh, no, not that. Sorry. Something a little easier on the eyes. How do I stop this thing? Oh, no. Oh, that's perfect. I like that. Obviously, one more time for Cameron Lovejoy. That was amazing. Thank you for that. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce our next reader. Given the atmosphere, it feels right to begin Alicia Wright's intro with the opening 2 lines to her poem, Night habit. I have a night habit, darkly moving in the air, not mattering, a veil of incident light. Later in her collection, You're Called by the Same Sound, is the persona Jane, who starved to death in 1609 in the Jamestown settlement. The speaker confides, I'd learned to read how bodies are susceptible to change. I grew shadowed by water's wane. The collection, unpublished for all you poetry publishing scouts out there, kicks off with Wraparound, which renders the Dickinsonian M- as crowbar, peeling back the clabbered rot, airing it out, but also goes big in terms of its Romanness, which is to say Rome, Georgia, the springboard from which many of these poems done get sprung. Her poems are erudite but ruddy, research but constantly researching, research but constantly searching. In Town Under Lake, Wright's triadic line turns to visual pits, where one reads two ways at once, quote, I have so many handfuls of shadows looking backward 10 degrees. Such is the case with history, especially here in the South, how ubiquitous the, quote, angel of history hides in the public eye, and it is the job of the poet to activate its tactility, its earthenness, to riff off of Carolyn Hembry's reading from For Today last night, something like, cotton exists, guns exist, violent drags drag and exist. Alicia Wright writes that shit. Quote, are you saying you didn't know? You didn't know? How could you have known? Each glint in the river water, how will you atone? A touchstone poet for Wright, C.D. Wright, of no relation beyond spiritual, poetical, and metaphysical, said, quote, no fires should be unattended, especially when wind. And it's a windy weekend in the little hard city of the Big Easy. Words can hurt in the mouth of a poet like Alicia Wright. As Sav, I'd like to offer this translation of The Creek, one of the predominant indigenous tribes to Wright's home state of Georgia, by Jerome Rothenberg after Frank Speck. This is Snake Medicine poem for a toothache. Coiled up on the road, on a long stick, coiled up. At the water's edge, he was coiled up, and coiled up around a branch, and was coiled up on a hollow tree. He kept on hissing, waiting, making a noise. He was a stone in the grass, coiled up there and waiting, making a noise, on a long stick, coiled up there and waiting, making a noise, in the sun, on the road, coiled up there and Alicia Wright, everybody.
That was everything I hoped for and more, Henry. Thank you. What a pleasure to read after Cameron in that resonant and contemplative space. Thank you so much for sharing this space. And I'm just so grateful for all the different forms of welcome I've received in this city. And it's been a real pleasure to be here so far. Yeah. So far. It will be. Okay. Let's see. Holding the line. Through the winter, I walked from the stone house to the river, knowing only some of the purplish berries' names. Must be beautyberry, I'd note, while treading down the hill, slick on the hill, but for patches of inch-high moss, little firs, their luminous, light-thatched green, their star-cut bristles. That's what I look for. What's intricate, rather than let my sense lead me afield. The fact is, I have to reconcile myself, if I want to go farther than I have, to poetry's status as many things. How far can I go, and yet still come back? Boot slips, storm-felled pines, I could stop again over the broken glass edging through the clay. That'd be one way to think over liquid partitions. Lodged in a hillside, in cascades progress, they appear, prongs, ephemera, as though these angles have no master. Fingerless gloves and the gloves of rain droplets orbing from the red berries, not holly, hard. I find to think of meaning, its source, hard and round, water spilling over my fingertip. I touch it, ruin it. Water soft, a walk to the river. How far does this stretch, I think, while lines nearly edge through, pitiful volunteers, impressions shading forward, tan pine needles lining a path taken nearly every day, as long as I can stand the cold. I lap the field's counter where the ground goes marsh, depression. How to reconcile parts to poetry I could not feel. The first time I found the gray fur, then the orange webbing trailing 30 coiled feet behind, snagged, coyote's paw cinched, puffed, newly abandoned. I'd heard mewling at night, but mistook it. Death calls. And so listening for notes of my own, I'd misapprehended the real sound. I thought of the coyote and thought fur, bowed back neck, sink of muscle. I watched, noted it, becoming bone. I walked through the blackberry brambles forest's frosted arc on Christmas Eve morning, and I did not lie down with it. I did not lie yet, though I longed to. Whatever meaning may be, I wouldn't make it. Not there. Even as the king snake, usually underground, slipped past my hand, resting on the wet leaves, watching the river water move over the weir. Even as poetry, like the water, kept a low current. The last mid-afternoon, I stood in a gaze at the overlook, having forgotten myself, nearly still. In a stretch of seconds, a shepherd mix following the incoming truck crept around the bend. It fixed upon me, stepping low, lower in crouch, lowering its dead eyes, my thigh. The man waited seconds and called his dog off. He waited as animal fear filled me, his whistle as master. Thought of a torn leg, the dog's jerking mouth. I walked back up to the pink sky, early fleabane catching my eye, the house obscured on the ridge, a thistle as though a flower might cohere. You're called by the same sound. Shift of cool as you slip the nightgown over your head. Mirror collection of sounds I answer. Slick glove of a pond dive golden-eyed. Straight arrow plunge to the soppy weed roots. We're diving down at the call of it. Made present in usage, practice, longing for her. Water furl rushes from girl knees gliding. Ambience turning in time to oxbow. You and I don't touch, but held in waves just past. Held in thought, breath never extinguishes. Two lives linked in air and sound. Which one of us a tuning fork? I can't answer. This poem is, in another life, I probably would have been an early Americanist because that shit is so weird and it's really great to read. And if you want to ask me for recommendations later, I will gladly give them. But so this poem is called Sattvi Factor Danse Macabre, and it sort of smashes together two the Danse Macabre form, and then the Sattvi Factor, not the novel, but the original, a Sattvi Factor or A Voyage to Maryland, a satire by Ebenezer Cook, written in 1708, and basically that guy came over from England. And got to Maryland and was like, what the fuck is this? And got on the boat and went home. And we're all here, so yeah. Sattvi Factor Danse Macabre. Oh yeah, and Death Speaks, so. In the arms of the hated nuptial bed, king's world, I draw you, out you, into new nocturnal riot, come, fled, planter, take my hand, corn feeding swine, invisible angels must contract, counter, imbibing, aromatic fire cure, peasant. I had to work very much and very hard. From my hands seep appetite, my body field trial, anatomy of a landscape, sucked lung, tar, stain, memento, summoned fox, pig, snake, pig, dog, sow, etc., mori, trepanning to be, in golden slumbers best, Who was the fool? Who was the wise man? I can give in. Stuff my ears with cotton, avoid deaf, blue linen of planters, rabble, beat down bodies, blued after stolen, hominy, radicals working into vomit, rivulet, fear, death, drumming in death, these leaves having to believe, just as pink flowers onto soil sprayed, the equalizing crop to be topped. This poem is kind of about an encyclopedic and informational glance and takes the angel of history and puts it at the end of the line as an epistrophe. So you're about to hear that phrase a lot. I'll have some more, actually. Everything that rises. One after another, the angel of history. Women, rural, 9, 1536, 1547, 1550, the angel of history. 1551 through 52, 1559, in business, 147, and the angel of history. Athletics, 245 through 46, 565, and education, the angel of history. 266, 1533, 1536, 38, and flowers, 340, the angel of history. 385, folkways among, 451, 452, part the angel of history. I can no longer hear the music, the angel of history. Singings all day, 1039 through 40, the angel of history. Sit-ins and civil rights movements, the angel of history. Southern Literary Messenger, 909, 933, the angel of history. Big Thicket, 335, 350, 377, the angel of history. A cast iron farm bell, the angel of history. The bell rest friable, the angel of history. In the fricative air between tolls, the angel of history. Make a basket of kudzu twines, the angel of history. Though these forms are less common, the angel of history shoot the shoots. We had been in swimming, and we had the angel of history. Hibbets, African, folk, 15th century, and contemporary, the angel of history, art, among other things. The Cottonlandia Museum in the angel of history. 648, history and manners, the angel of history. I heard my mother ring the bell for the angel of history. The king snake in the bush, a branch painted, the angel of history. A dream of the red and black snake, the angel of history. Around my throat tightening, the angel of history. The horse boys shouting in the dark streets, the angel of history. Nothing's captured political office and established nativists, the angel of history. Would the angel of history know when memory, the angel of history? Father's House, 1978, is a grim novel exploring future, the angel of history. Let Gaines rest, the angel of history. In peace, the angel of history. The monograph had been adhered to and the angel of history. 1838, copper plate, the angel of history. He asked, what about sin? I'd forgotten, the angel of history. South that has all but vanished, the angel of history. The fracture in the ledger grave marker, the angel of history. The dog that bit my father digs in it, the angel of history. Most artists in the South have embraced the tenets of the angel of history. What is loosely called modernism, the angel of history. Hot knobs of the rooms I cannot enter, the angel of history. Wreckage upon wreckage, the angel of history. What calls from the dead in the flat air, the angel of history. That I can hear, the angel of history. Mass and a Norman-style Episcopal church in the South, the angel of history. Mothballs and tin in the slat shelf pantry, the angel of history. Collapse in her last kiss, the angel of history. Techno-colonialism, the barbs on the wire, the angel of history. Illy 1049, image of 1492, the angel of history. Bottle trees, 495 through 96, the angel of history. Into the hulls of westward racing ships, the angel of history. With bags of letters desperately calling, the angel of history. A tithe purloined cankers the whole estate, the angel of history. The ledger, the fissure, the sin of the dog, the angel of history. May at his peril further go, the angel of history. Clay clods, the slippery elm leaf spray, the angel of history. 386 as symbol, 586 and concurrent, the angel of history. The blood from my mouth, the angel of history. The fourth escaped into the tall August sugar cane, the angel of history. Woo! Compressed pastoral, and it's for Jude Walters, who was the operator at the Rome Cotton Compress Company. You'll figure out what a cotton compress through the poem if you don't already know. Compressed pastoral. Not another one like it for 100-odd miles. This cotton compress is so efficient it only needs one operator. No Spider-Men darting around, iron legs, losing fingers. The oldest one still in operation, also owned by the same man, whose customary reticence shortened threads we have left. Jude, who runs the big machine while the owner hunts in Nova Scotia, selling bale by bale in Boston, bale by bale, 500 pounds of bale. Stated commission, 50 cents per bale when local sourcing. These bales, the preference of the surrounding mills. Prices shift per telegram, 5 1/8, 5 5/8, 4S, you don't care. Top crop or small fruit, which makes the grade. Even disinterested experts confirm the plant's superior, whether or not the cotton's injured or will have a bad showing. Harbor, meaning wait and do nothing, as spots don't respond to decline in futures. Jude, you are full of care, moving under the belly, the machine like a ladder too high to picture with its bell dome, crushing the cotton you confirmed was of quality, not slipping. In shifting gradients, these distinctions to you the most clear. This is a poem that really has no single way to read it, in that it looks like this on the page. And it's about, I was looking at a map and I kept looking at maps and I'm like, this poem is sort of about the kind of brutal constraints of colonial logic on landscape, right? And it's a persona poem in the voice of an actual dude named John Seaburn. None of it is, none of it's like found language from him specifically, but it kind of came to me in a dream. So I'll just read around. Surveyor John Seaburn, 1831, in Cass County, Georgia, on Cherokee land. Few others, oh yeah, he's bad. Can you tell? Oh, it's creepy. Okay. Few others would come by foot as I have carried myself westward over from the highlands, which so appear as though God himself's right hand figured each hill. There are many pines, and birds are many, and bear signs are many, and I have only seen one as it looked to me. Thicket, yes, and the kettle air. Townships must be 6 miles square per the old rules, but not else present out here but those who stay hidden like. Villages all divide so many. One lucky man will have himself attain the chief part, who, when his number's called in a winning draw, he might bring his wife and offspring and all else to a house cleared out and land. And to do this work, I must picture the world from above, looking down and accounting for natural features. There are many rivers, creeks, spring-fed, and which draw such fertile lots to be lauded. If a man has God on his side, his number drawn, and lot, and whatsoever might be there, therefore is his. If I see no one, then no soul is here. I am fearful, and most often alone. It is lonely work. Bruno the dog follows. When I am not holding my thoughts, the rectangular system becomes more particular. Up at the high tower camp, such company though few of, tell of how I caught the George took. He was absconding with a woman. He, in God's truth, was dismounted, and I sprang upon him to water from his. I am a cunning man, and I am well matched in my companion Bruno, like to use his teeth as. This tract I do not know if it will be retained, as it has unusual mounds. I know what they are, but not how. As a state agent, I have found employ, and that is more than any scrub patch of soil. The cotton plants weak and failing, no one can change God's. Plucking blackberries, once not dry and scorched as I pass through. But these are my first drafts, and my footprints as they make informal lines. Will not I have heard in Virginia a horrible rebellion has taken place, and so I sleep with my gun by my side. Won't shoot until I get word of any land ahead, and if any. Right angles in a series of right angles, the theodolite's fine eye is the sharpest, so I am told, like my rifle with 2 more arms and poised to plot later on paper. It is good work. I am one to lay down the shape of future. I do not often have to think of fellow man only when I have need of others' succor at encampment or to slake. Yesterday, a young deer, like a lightning bolt through the pines, nearly hung itself, catching my steel half chain at the neck. Its hoof caught the key handle, and as it stumbled, I reached. Bad man. Okay. Undated incidents concerning occupation, which is based at the Major Ridge home in Rome, Georgia, also on Cherokee land. I'll tell you more about that house later if you want. Okay. Undated incidents concerning occupation. Surrounding trappers envied his two-story white house, which holds the older dog trot house and its pine beams, hand-secured slopes and local lotto, trickling farmers. See his riparian swaths of soil and his ferry, the current holding vessel bank to bank, crossing seamless over known and nearer shoals. The self-sustaining prosper system, the wealthiest non-citizen they knew, the properties their treaty mirage. He signed to pitch his structures even negotiation, and he would again in near annihilation's lawless air. In order for a ferry boat to go from one side of a river to another, when a movement called ferrying, it is a management of force. The current comes in nearly constant. Aim your vessel at the midpoint of the current and the bank. If the water's momentum's low, the angle will be less. Flow. If we're talking big resistance, you'll want to meet the water hard, head on. What you want to be is the ideal angle, so right you won't have to paddle or propel. A few gestural strokes. It is like holding space and time on a vector shot from one thing to another. You'll be pushed a perfect sideways glide, unless, of course, a flood or dam's released. The lonesome ringing of a 10-year-old in an empty kitchen. Glass bottles, swallowed tinctures, and corrugated faucets, laminate counter, and warped floor. The not-lit back door where some come in, board members, my mother, archaeologists, bustle the old breezeway, unwrapping the petit fours, uncap the cokes for a meeting. I wait, the air is heavier here, like on the staircase with its low copper soft railing. Its uncanny curve up and a sudden rise. Shadows bend around now, grayed fluorescence. Who's been watching this whole time? Who lived while my forefather, grandmother, father, me occupy? Where have been sold? Who treads in this seated house? Bought and whitewashed, lead in the chest, and swaths in the totality of holding, overlapping the house's deep memory. I know here's theirs. If my body, like a bullet pitch sent out, I felt my brain bend back, sense the torque of their disruption, and yet they've stayed in structures still, hewn logs interlocked. This has a semi-long epigraph, which I shouldn't tell you. I should just read the epigraph, and then you wouldn't notice. Or maybe you would. Okay. This is called War Theory, and it takes the epigraph from Robert Penn Warren writing about the Civil War. This is the only Civil War poem I've ever written. A people's way of fighting reflects a people's way of thinking, and the lessons of fighting are very apt in a kind of dialectical progression to modify and refine the thinking. The pragmatic bias of American philosophy is not without significant relation to the encounter between the Monitor and the Merrimack, the Confederate submarine, the earthworks of Petersburg or Atlanta, the observation balloon and field telegraph, General Herman Hopp's use of the railroad at Gettysburg, the new use of mounted riflemen, Grant's systematically self-nurtured gift for problem solving, or Sherman's theory of war. This is also my dog whistle poem. No one else thought. I felt like I heard a long time ago where we might be headed in a political way, and I didn't really have any other way than a poem to try to attend to that. So, War Theory. Not I'm trying to dog whistle to you, but that I heard it. Cool. Enigma machine, submarine encrypted, is total war, initial ironclad encounter, rivermouth clang, batter ram, mounting fort of fire in all directions, maximum clip, ship shooting, inequivalence, no damage, existing circumstance, target totality, everything around that resuscitated rust, failed fishboat, torpedo deployed inward, effort suffocating, floating tactic for final vision, defense hunkering down, allowed detonation of artifact alliance, artificial, factual, reconstruction, reconnaissance, embodiless narrative, text, allegiance, friendless, foeless, tainted civilian implements, buckle, rotting ornaments, corroded soldier, redox mission, battles fought for the open field, rigging reenactments, felled infernal contraption, fainting single shot at event horizon, in Dickey's dream, fragments reassemble, metal magnetized. Oh yeah, I got really mad at reading a James Dickey poem, which why did I do that? But I did. This is my last poem, called Requiem with Flamingo Flock. Picture roseate necks extending into sun-warmed water, the red dipping under palmate shadow, the saw palms, petiole spines, languid bend in salt air with 100 calls calling interlaced in reflection, webbed feet lifting sand plumes, legs back angled, faces grazing, hooked bill as two palms cupped together, then sailing away without flapping their wings. And just on the horizon, there was this huge line of pink. In Gaffney, South Carolina, for Mullinax Inc., a lady's hat design of fixed flamingo plumage and a braid along the rim, a wreath, the natural curvature of the feathers molded around the head in a coquettish cap, leaving birds' original skin discarded in sheaths and the carcasses to eat. A naturalist 1860 account describes how when the birds would molt, he and a hunter waded through the marsh to take them bulletless by the hand. Bird by bird, he took 100 from the flock to sell their meat. Let us remember them. Elusive prize, a colony sighted on a mudflat would often disappear when hunters would return, their local guides unable to account for why they'd gone. A flamingo was killed in or before 1868 by a Captain R.S. Sheldon, who, quote, worked 5 or 6 hours to get it, who skinned it and stuffed it, a skill he'd learned from an Englishman who'd come to Florida from before the Civil War. He wrote, "It is the only flamingo I ever saw in Florida." Audubon's account remarks, "They usually move in lines." Other enterprising men would write to him in hints. The flamingo is a kind of bird that lives in lagoons, having a communication with the sea. By canoe, bateau, by wading shoulder deep in alkaline-tinted mangrove mud, the men did pursue the shy, rose-colored, scarlet birds into the salt flats so deep within the swamp's interior, the names of sites in records slip. Likely one island, but possibly another. A river mouth, the salt lake, the reservoir, the slick embankment downstream by 1 mile, to find the secretive flock inhabiting Mud Lake, 24 so-called in state. Where are you, waiter? Do you know your footing among the water lilies, beach verbena, button bushes? Phenocopterus rubor pedaling in lagoons, umbrella silhouettes stock still on awnings, cotton shirts, straw hats shading reddened faces. Profligate flamingos, casino profits. Now they're taking Vegas. They sip fruits on beaches, which for them means possibly 3 partners. Wild birds. Hunters thought they had eliminated them by 20th century start, but Alice found a mallet uncooperative for the Queen's rigged croquet game. Its neck dropped limp before her swing, or strike on an unending pitch where death's the stake. In the flock, the signals shift, a honk, a swerve of neck, a high tide plash. We'll glide at glimpse, at lightning strike. The sawgrass sears, it saw, they've seen. The ocean of the Gulf is slate, the ocean of the Gulf is mirror, arrow-legged they trace their migratory pattern in clouds from Cuba, where they nest if they decide some spring, though our notes obscure where they keep their home. It is the key, is Mexico. It is all land that bowls the Gulf's expanse. It is no mystery, but that our mystery is why we will not locate home from home and right to rest. A neck bends backward for the preen. A neck is serpentine, is filter, flute. A beak is islanded, tangerine to jet blackened as each wing edge. An eye is bigger than a brain, is always golden in a head. Tongue sifts salty from the clear. Tongue flicks flickering 100 times a lick. A tongue so sure in a sloped mouth, 1,000 sensing bristles drink the lake. In a disturbance of words within words, a field is founded, flamingos folded, colony to colony, and so unnoted, found. They are not mine, not spoonbills, so similar and warm in color, mind. More that they swill this mudded earth, draw shrimp glow, seed glow, blue-green algae glow to color feather. They hear their fledglings calling from inside its egg, before its hatch, and speak it back. They drink, give back in particle. Milk made in throat, seeped out from mouth, their young straight beak alights to careful ladle. How they deposit every drop. How this secreted drip, flush with carotene, depletes its makers, fills the blank and squawking fledgling up to color. Red nectar droplets spilling down its head, blood close, and is blood from the head. Thank you.
Keep it going for Alicia Wright and Cameron Lovejoy. Wow. Well, thank you for turning out. This is amazing. I'll keep this quick. I would like to quote Cameron Lovejoy from 45 minutes ago. Splicing indicates a return to arts. Did I hear that right? You don't have to pander to us, and we love you. Welcome back. It never left. Never does in this place, in this city. Support your local zippity zap. Discuss language problems with your local poet. Tip well your bartender. March 9th, we are back with Steph Russell, our own. Where are you at, Steph? Somewhere? Yeah, there. All right, sweet. Steph Russell and Ginger Co. coming in. And if there's no conduit, there's no electricity. We depend on y'all showing up, and y'all showed up tonight, and we appreciate you so much. So thank you. And yeah, great. See ya. Bye.